Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, everybody. It's glad to be here at Gallion Transportation Center in Greensboro. Thank you for allowing us to be here today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joey Hopkins, Secretary of Transportation, North Carolina Department of Transportation. The governor and I are here this morning with Dennis Newman, Executive Vice President for Strategy and Planning with Amtrak. I'll say a few things first, and then I'll turn it over to Governor Cooper and Mr. Newman for additional comments. And we're here today really for two reasons. Number one, to celebrate the great things we're seeing with our NC by train passenger rail service. And number two, we want to make sure everyone knows we're working hard to improve that service, because taking the train is a safe, reliable, and convenient way to travel here in North Carolina. Governor Cooper and I have a singular vision. We want a multimodal transportation network that works well for everyone, where those with limitations and barriers have equal access to mobility. We want a system that is safe and easy to use. Passenger rail is an extremely important part of our efforts to make this vision a reality. No longer is NC by train one of the best kept secrets in transportation. More people than ever before now know that riding the train is a great way to travel across the Piedmont. If you don't have access to a vehicle, or you don't want to worry about getting behind the wheel, you can remove all that stress and take the train. That's true if you're heading to a meeting, visiting friends or family, or if you're heading even to a ball game or a festival. NC by train, the state's inner-city passenger rail service between Raleigh and Charlotte, has become a very popular way to travel in North Carolina. Over the past year and a half, we've seen record-breaking ridership on NC by train. In fact, in 2022, ridership was the highest it has been in the 32-year history of that service. And we're on pace in 2023 to break those records. Every time you turn around, it seems like we're breaking records from the previous month. We experienced our highest ridership ever this past July, only to surpass those numbers again this past October. And one of the big reasons for this impressive track record, pun intended, are all the new NC by train services we've added. We've made numerous both rail and highway improvements to make train travel better between Charlotte and Raleigh. We've also increased the frequency of the NC by train trips and made those trips quicker. To meet this increased demand, we launched a fourth service back in 2018, and then in this past July, we added more departures, reduced travel times, and created a schedule that allowed us to expand from those 4 trips to 5 daily round trips between Charlotte and Raleigh. We're not just improving our existing services though, we're also looking to expand train service into other areas of North Carolina and build upon this positive momentum. We're working hard to better connect passenger rail service in central North Carolina with the S-Line corridor. The S-Line is a freight line that connects Richmond, Virginia, and Raleigh. Virginia has acquired their portion of the right-of-way from CSX, and we're working on a deal now to acquire our portion in North Carolina. Once that project's built, it will shave over an hour off the travel time between Raleigh and Richmond, allowing more frequent and reliable train service, and will make the trip to DC more car competitive. This expansion will help advance the Southeast Rail Corridor and better connect North Carolinians to opportunities and services. This summer, we completed a study that helps us to better plan for how we can make the most out of this future passenger rail opportunity. This study looked at something called transit-oriented development. It gives us a plan to understand how to create compact, walkable downtowns with housing, office, and retail near mobility hubs that bring together in one location public transit, ride sharing, and also other modes of travel. As we speak, we and our partners are working to design these mobility hubs in several central North Carolina communities. There are a lot of exciting things going on right now in the passenger rail world. Earlier this year, our own rail division applied for a grant for more than $1.2 billion from the Federal Railroad Administration's Federal State Partnership Grant Program. This is to build the first segment of that S-Line from Raleigh to Wake Forest, and we expect to hear any day now whether we're successful with that grant, and our fingers are crossed. The realization of this route is how intercity passenger rail will serve customers in the future with modern, sustainable trains from North Carolina to the Northeast with a focus on comfort and sustainability. Like the transportation industry as a whole, passenger rail is evolving, and we must be forward-thinking to be prepared for these changes. We're also trying to take advantage of a new opportunity to expand NC by train to further connect North Carolina from the mountains to the coast. We've applied for other grants through the Federal Corridor Identification and Development Program to do just that. This program helps states with new, enhanced intercity passenger rail development, and the award of grants for this first phase would provide federal funds for us to explore the viability of these selected corridors. Of course, none of that is possible without partnerships like Amtrak, all of our transportation stakeholders at the local, state, and federal level, the numerous communities we work with like Greensboro here and Raleigh where we just came from, North Carolina Railroad, and also our state legislative and congressional partners who know and understand the value of a great transportation system. The governor and I and Mr. Newman are here today not to toot our own horns, but to show everyone that train really is a great way to travel. So we just got off the train from Raleigh. We had no problems at all. We had a great time. Thank you to Amtrak for the wonderful service. This expanded rail service is a part of a broader multimodal transportation system that we envision for North Carolina, and we intend to offer more services with greater frequencies in the future. We want the train to become a transportation option for everybody to help mobility better for all, because the best transportation system is one that offers multiple modes of travel so we can meet everyone's needs and desires to get where they're going safely. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. It's now my pleasure to introduce a gentleman who's been working hard to build a stronger North Carolina, a North Carolina where everyone has an opportunity to live in safe communities, to get a quality education, to have a good job, and access to affordable health care. Our greatest partner in transportation, Governor Cooper.
Let me recognize Dennis Newman of Amtrak first.
Now, boarding train 72.
There we go.
72 on platform 2.
That's
Going to Durham, Cary, and Raleigh. Boarding train number 72.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to get in, was to let the passengers know time to board. So, thank you, Governor.
my first introduction preceded by a train announcement, so that's outstanding. It's great to be in Greensboro. I'm glad to be here with my friend Mike Fox, who heads the North Carolina Board of Transportation and is constantly an advocate for the triad here. Grateful to be here with Secretary Hopkins, who's doing an extraordinary job leading our Department of Transportation, and Dennis Newman and all of the Amtrak employees. What a great ride I had from Raleigh here to Greensboro, a place where the economy is booming, where companies are coming to bring better paying jobs. And one of our missions here in North Carolina is to make sure that we get people from one place to the next in a cleaner, more efficient, faster, and more comfortable way. And public transportation is a great way to do that, and the train is a great way to use public transportation. I probably talked with 24 people on the train from Raleigh to Greensboro. Here's some of the things that they were doing. There was a couple of guys who were going down to the Charlotte Hornets game tonight. There was a student who was commuting back and forth to UNC Greensboro. I got to say, go Spartans. There was a student who was going back and forth to North Carolina A&T. I got to say, go Aggies. There was a couple of Wolfpackers who were going to see the Virginia Tech game. There was a couple who lived in Raleigh who wanted to stay there, but they wanted to visit their grandchildren in Charlotte a lot, and they found the train as the great way for them to go back and forth, and their children just pick them up at the train station. Talked to a couple of people who were using it for business reasons. It went on and on and on. People have found a ride by train is the best way for them to get from one place to the next. Plus, you remove that stress from driving, and you're able to read, you're able to work on your laptop, you're able to have conversations with your family. Saw a family that was headed on a trip here today to Greensboro to the museum here with 3 little kids, and one of them was their birthday, and they were excited about being on the train. So there is a reason why ridership has skyrocketed. We're offering more trains and more ways for people to get there, but people have found the secret. So I'm excited about this. We want to move to a clean transportation economy. One of the ways we do that is to get more people riding trains and getting people out of cars as much as possible. And I'm excited today to be here in Greensboro and to advocate and encourage people. If you haven't taken the train, give it a try. I'll now introduce Dennis Newman with Amtrak. Dennis?
Thank you, Governor. And thank you, everyone, for being here today. Well, the Secretary and the Governor did a wonderful job of talking to all of you about the benefits of passenger rail. I thank you for setting the stage. So good morning. As the Governor said, I'm Dennis Newman. I'm the Executive Vice President of Strategy and Planning for Amtrak. Part of my own personal strategic plan is to spend more time in North Carolina because you all have a great and beautiful state. So really happy to be here at the Greensboro station. The station officially reopened in 2005 after a restoration project, and the work to restore the building and the success of train service are examples of what we can accomplish when we work together in partnership. So I want to say thank you to Governor Cooper, to Secretary Hopkins, Chairman Fox, and also to Deputy Secretary Julie White and Rail Director Jason Orthner for your leadership and your commitment to passenger rail service in North Carolina. So Amtrak is delivering a new era of rail. Right? We're planning for more trains to more places for more people. We're realigning the company as a premier intercity passenger rail provider and an industry-leading capital delivery company. And our ridership and revenue are continuing to grow. It's actually nearing and, in several cases, exceeding pre-pandemic levels, and that's definitely the case here in North Carolina. So we're also advancing critical infrastructure projects and continue to build for the future, thanks in part to the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. And a significant reason for our growth is our partnership with North Carolina and the investments that the state is making to upgrade and expand intercity passenger rail. Now, Amtrak has got a really strong presence in North Carolina. We operate 18 trains per day in the state. Now, the Carolinian service and Piedmont service offer multiple daily trips from Greensboro to Charlotte and to Raleigh, and the Carolinian service continues on up to Washington and then up the Northeast Corridor to New York. Also, we operate the long-distance Crescent train that travels between New York and New Orleans daily, with a stop here in Greensboro. And in other parts of the state, North Carolina have access to our Palmetto, Silver Meteor, and Silver Star services. Now, in our fiscal year that was just concluded, ridership for Greensboro was nearly 160,000, and the total ridership in North Carolina for Amtrak was nearly 1.2 million riders, and both of those figures are about 30% higher than they were the prior year. So ridership is really taking off, and we appreciate all of the support and business that we get in North Carolina. And North Carolina really is a great example of investment bringing the economic impact that passenger rail can have. The Piedmont service started out in 1995 with just one daily round trip, and the trip took 3 hours and 45 minutes back then, and then it carried 29,000 passengers in that first year. But with the investments that North Carolina has made and with support from federal grants, we've been able to grow that. Now, in addition to the about 300,000 passengers annually that we have now. And in addition, We've been able to make track and signal improvements that increase speeds and reduce trip times and add capacity and improve reliability for the service. So, and that's why now the Piedmont is up to 4 daily round trips, and with the Carolinian, that's 5 a day. So we're very excited about the future of passenger rail in North Carolina. North Carolina has proposed and applied for the Federal Corridor ID program for a number of routes that are going to look to expand service around the state. And the partnership that we have with North Carolina, we very much value and appreciate, and we look forward to continuing that partnership. So before I close, the last thing I want to say is I want to thank the Amtrak employees here in Greensboro for their dedication and service to provide our customers with an excellent travel experience as they connect with friends and family. And as we refer to it, the Thanksgiving week is the biggest week of travel for intercity passenger rail. So this is our Super Bowl starting out kind of today. So really appreciate all of the support that we have from our passengers and all the great work that our employees here do. And look forward to welcoming more folks on the train. So thank you.
So any of us will be glad to take questions from the media.
Do you have any ideas of what sort of economic development the new grants, federal grants would open up, and the possibilities that you mentioned?
So we are constantly striving for federal grants. I've told our team that we don't want to leave a competitive dollar on the table for North Carolina, and I'll let Secretary Hopkins talk about that just a bit.
Thank you, Governor. So we have a lot of needs here in North Carolina, all transportation needs, and while we have a healthy budget for transportation, it's not enough to meet those needs. We actually get what we call formula funding from the federal government to help with highways and rail, aviation, transit, bike and ped, and other things, but we're also very aggressive going after these grants, discretionary grants. We've been successful in the past. We're going to continue to be aggressive going after these, and if we're successful with this S-Line grant, that'll help us construct the area between the rail part between Raleigh and Wake Forest, and what we can do with that is start providing intercity service there like we do now from Raleigh to Charlotte, and that'll just open up it's almost untold economic development opportunity once that's up and running. And we want to continue that from Raleigh up to Richmond, and like was mentioned before with the corridor IDs, to potentially to Asheville in the future, Wilmington, and 8 other locales across the state too. We want to expand this.
Great. Next question. Right here. Questions? Phil Sterling, ABC 45 News. I understand that, ridership is going up, the pandemic ended. Are you seeing trends that are causing people to say, hey, I want to get on the train besides just the pandemic ending, and people saying, I think it's safe to get on the train?
Yeah, I think people understand what they need to do to protect themselves from COVID, and people have begun traveling, and we've seen a significant increase in that. But we've increased the number of trains that are traveling in North Carolina, and I believe the last 3 quarters we've had about 460,000
Yes, sir.
riders. So we're seeing an astronomical increase in the number of people wanting to do this. And I think because so many people have gotten back on the highways that people have kind of reassessed their travel. Where do I want to go and how do I want to get there? And people now are choosing the train because of the ease, the convenience, the fact that we have shared riderships. People can take Uber or Lyft or get friends to pick them up at wherever they're headed. And the train gives them time to do the things they need to do other than driving. It's more comfortable. It often is faster and more efficient. So I think we're going to continue to see more and more people do it. And that's why we're striving to increase the service here, because we know not only will that be better to get people from one place to the next, whether it's for entertainment or pleasure, but for work as well. And that's going to improve our economy, no doubt.
We got time for maybe one more right here.
Obviously, we're having a lot of companies come into the Piedmont. Is this a way to kind of help attract more of those companies to come in, add in these lines?
So if new people do come into the station, it's another way to give them a way to travel into work.
We have an extraordinary amount of jobs that are going to be coming to the Triad. The people here have worked with us in state government. Toyota, obviously, the most important landing spot that we've had thus far. We're going to be EV battery central, not only for the country, but for the world. We're talking about 5,100 new great paying jobs there, and almost $14 billion investment. But what that means is that the supply chain around it is going to grow. Small businesses are going to get contracts, and you're exactly right. There are going to be more people that are going to be coming to the Triad, and we need more ways to be able to get them here, whether it's through commute or otherwise. And so we know that increasing our passenger train availability and schedules and ridership is going to help grow our economy and help us to take care of the economic growth that we are already experiencing.